Good morning, everybody. It's David here, David R. Becker with BeckerArt, and I'm in my studio this morning. I was actually going to go outside and paint this morning, and it was starting to rain, and I thought, oh, I wanted to show you my new setup. I have a new setup from Jack Richardson, a plein air setup that I really want to show you guys, and I was going to show you all. I was all excited about going out this morning and getting out there and showing you, but it's going to have to wait until really nice weather. I want to show you. I have like three different setups and just want to really excited about him. And since I'm doing a lot more plein air this year, I just wanted to get a nice setup, and so I'll be showing you that later. But instead, it's raining outside, and so I'm just going to be inside here painting in my studio. And another one of my entertainment series of a guitarist, and so we're just going to go right ahead and go at it. Cheers, everybody! Cheers, cheers, cheers! I already had my cup of coffee. This is like still a little bit left in there, and so I drew up this scene of a guitarist, and as you can see, I didn't draw every little minute thing in there. Like I didn't do the lighting up on top, and I didn't do the up on top there. You have the wait, this what do they call that? Well, anyways, the stuff over there we didn't put in there, the rooftop and the girders up there. And so we're just gonna go and we're gonna start with our lights with like we always do in our watercolors. And I may take a little bit of thicker watercolor and maybe end it up with a what you call it, gouache. It's early this morning. I'm still waking up, so I'm really excited about going outside today. It was so beautiful yesterday, and I got all this stuff kind of ready to go. But so we'll just take it slowly here, and we're just gonna do a nice little entertainment scene. And we'll start out with like this light edges, the lights of the singer. And we're not going to do the lighting with the same time as we're doing this little light stuff, because we're going to do his face first. It's light, right? And we're just going to go in there real quickly and get some of the shadowing. I'm going to leave a little bit of white on the edge of his face. The final detail we'll get there later. And you can go into the dark areas because we're going to go over that, when we go with the darks. So always that's how we start with lights. We start with lights usually because we want to. Hey Maria, good morning. And so we're gonna go in here and just get some lights going. And depending on on the series that I'm doing, a lot of times you can play with the lighting really well because when you're having light in a band, they put different color lights on, to for the show and stuff, and so you can actually use that in your advantage to make any color you want in there. So let's say there's a blue light, or these are actually right here. You see, there's like more of a purple light, and so that's kind of cool. And I'm just noticing now. I just realizing I put one of my gloves on. Get so used to it. More comfortable. So we're gonna go in here, and then we're just gonna get in there, and we'll do all his flesh tones real quickly. We'll just do his flesh tones on his hand, keeping some of the lights, the front part really light, and keep it white. We can just rub it off a little bit. His chin, underneath his nose. And again, this is kind of being a little bit detailed, but that's okay. You can do that right from the get-go. Your lights can be very, detailed in a way that so you don't have to go back into it. I'd rather not go back into it. I'm not a high-definition painter, so I paint more loosely impressionistic, and so I tend to just do big areas and don't really worry so much about details. I mean, I worry about details that looks like this guy, and so that in that instance, I am doing things that are more detailed, but not hyper realistic. So we're gonna go right through this, right through the mic stand because it's darker. Again, how can you paint so that you're doing the big areas or the light areas? And so go right into this hand, right into the guitar. Then the color of the guitar can be whatever. Again, depending on the lighting situation, that determines everything. Because without lights, it's black, right? Without any light. So is the light white, or is it blue, or is it red, or is it purple? And that's what I really find interesting when I'm doing these entertainment bands and stuff, and singers and dancers, and it's so neat to work differently. And it's sort of making me paint a little bit more abstractish, and which I kind of trying to do a little bit more of, trying to make my work a little bit more abstract and not so right on to look like a photograph. As a fundamental, teaching my students fundamentals, yes, I make them do first the way it looks originally, but then in time you get away from that. You sort of make it up what you wanted to make it look like. I mean, you don't have to make it look just like the photograph. When I want to make it look more like the artwork that I want to show, and that comes with time. So here again, I'm doing all my lights in a watercolor, and actually, it's really weird because when I go outside and paint now, and I'm painting on the spot, plein air, I find that I even start my acrylics or my gouache or my oils, I always started like a watercolor, because even when I'm doing oils, I use water-based oils. And so what I'm doing there is I'm kind of going in. Oh, thanks, Maria. Yeah, I like the dancers and the musicians, and I hope to get in there one day and just paint them. I would like to go to these more of the bands and listen to them, and also sketch them. Sketch them on the spot. My goal is to one day be able to sketch a really big name musician or dancer or actor. And I've been also doing actors. I've been doing some like stage stuff, and so I just wouldn't mind going to the actual play or to the musical or to a dance recital, and then just paint them in the spot. That would be really cool. Especially big name. It'd be fun to do some really big name people and just sit there and paint them. That's my goal. We'll see how that turns out. I mean, I really, I love when I'm in my studio here. I really should have him be, when I'm painting this, I would love to have music just playing and blaring. And usually that's what I do when I'm by myself here and I'm painting, like I did when I was in Canoga. I just had my headsets on, and I just had music playing while I'm painting musicians. It feels so good. It's just so neat to be able to do that at the same time as you're painting, listening to the music that they're playing, right? So it's really fun. So there's my lights, just as basic lights. You're not getting too detailed. It's just I'm going in with some of the light colors that are going to be reflected into the light areas. So the edge of his pants are going to be lit up a little bit here. Here's going to be a blast of light right there. And I'm going to be using, today I'll be showing you, I'll be using this airbrush to get some of this lighting look and effect in there. But again, always get your lights first, you get them in there. And I say, even as when I'm doing my oils, I still put them in first, because I put the darks on top of it and I can just cover up the edges. And then I go thick with the other stuff, if it's gouache or acrylic or oils, then I can put the thick stuff on there later. And this is super fun. Yeah, I really should have the radio on or in the background, but then you wouldn't be able to hear me because I play it pretty loud when I'm painting. All right, so there's my lights, and now I got to go to my large area midtones and darks, the large areas. So these are pretty much all the lights that I have going on, and let's see, I'll maybe go with, I kind of like the image where it has purple and yellow, which are complements, so that's kind of maybe what I'll go with. And those girders up there, I'm not going to put those in as much. I don't really need to see all those. It kind of takes away, I think, from the musician's face and stuff, and so I'm not going to do that as much as having these girders up there, and it's really not necessary. I do like the lighting that is going on up there, so let's see how I do that. So let's go in here now and just get our middle tones and darks in there. And so basically he is our dark. When I squint my eye, he's the dark. And so where's my light pattern? Where's my light pattern? And so I'm going to make it so that he's dark up here. If he's dark, then the background behind him can be a little bit lighter. And then I squint my eye and I look to see where the light pattern is. So we have light to the guitar, to his face, and sort of like a little bit in here. It's almost like a little S or Z, or and then everything else is middle tone to darks, and I think that'll work okay. If I keep behind him kind of light, like this plastic behind him, so he's almost silhouette shape. So saying that it's light, it's not going to be light. It's still my middle tones, and middle tones can go to dark. So this will still be a dark against a dark, but then I just have a few lights, with it be a face, the guitar, and this really strong light here, and this keyboard player. I'll have him there. All right, enough talking. But it's really important that you know your value pattern. After you get your drawing down, make sure your drawing is good. After you get your drawing, then look for your big lights and darks, because that makes the composition. It's all about the drawing of the composition. Yeah, it gets you in the zone, definitely. Yeah, it feels good when you're listening to something that you're painting. Like when you're outdoors, like when you're painting like the landscapes and stuff, it's neat to hear, all the things that are going on. Like if you're doing a landscape with maybe a waterfall, the rushing of the water is just really neat. And when you're doing a band, you should be listening to music, right? It just seems one of those things that just seems right to do. All right, so I'm not going to wet all of it like I normally do, the background. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here. And this is where the light is light, and I'm going to go around this way, so I don't have to wait for something to stop and make me a hard edge or whatever. So I'm just going to go in here, wet it a little bit on this area. Leave this light, because there's going to be a blast of light right there. And so I'm just going to make it yellow, because I want the yellow and purple. So I'll make this light right here. Make a blast of light. And so I go from yellow to a little bit of orange. I want this to be white, because this is a blast of light, and I will maybe even put white in there later. I'm going to leave the floor alone. I'm just going to go up a brown this way, and then go right away to a really dark. I'm using my 1.5 inch brush. I'm going to use some purple now, because purple and orange are complements, so they'll make it like a grayish brown. That'll be fine. A little black in there just to get it really dark. But I said this is going to be medium, didn't I? Oh well, it's going to dry it pretty light, so let's see what we can do. A little yellow, violet will make it gray. And his outfit is just as dark as, is darker than the background, so let's tone this down a little bit. We'll make his shirt, or his coat that he's got on, darker than this part. And let's have fun with the colors back here. Why not? Let's put some red in there. And this is where you'd have fun with like different mediums. Let's say you use those paints that have more granules in them, and so this is just, you're making a really cool background with colors and textures, and that's where, when I always tell my students, try to make it look like a watercolor. Make it look, what kind of watercolor color technique can you use to make this wash look really cool? Some people like to spatter it, scatter it, put the granule stuff in there, more of a granular pigment, so it granulates a little bit more. Salt, you can put salt in there, you can rub it. Now I noticed, I'm not putting I didn't put masking fluid in for like the lights and stuff. Those I'm just going to pull out. I think a lot of times if you use masking fluid, it ends up being too strong, and I don't want to make it that strong. I want it to just be where I can put opaques in there. I can light it up again, and I can also pull out the colors, or pull out the lighting. One of my students yesterday in class, she had done a picture of a crane, and the background was just plain, and we used a stencil. I was looking for a stencil for this. I do have my round stencil that I may use to get some of the roundness in the background lighting. So I may do some of that. Let's get a little more purple dark up here. The darker it is up here, and then when I take out some of the lights, here I'm going a little bit slower because I'm getting around his nose, around the, let's see, the mic and his face has lights, so that's okay to go slowly there. So here we're going to put a little blue in there too. So now this is dry area, so I'm kind of going with a dry brush, and it's going to give me a hard edge, which is fine. And as I wet it, then I just keep on going, plopping in colors, plopping in pigment, let it do its thing. Holbein is going to be making some of that granule kind of pigment that granulates like Daniel Smith has. I can't wait for that because I really love the. I just bought some of the Daniel Smith just to try it, knowing that Holbein's going to be making some of that. It's going to be really awesome. I like that pigment that granulates really well. Like it just shows really a lot of granules. All right, let me show you a little something. Let me just wet this along. Let me show you how to get some of this lighting up here. See, I don't really do it right away. I'm just going to wet this area. So now I'm going to take my smaller brush. And so some of these lights I rub out. So let's take this light right here. There's a light. I'm just going to take in my brush. I'm just going to pull out some of the paint. So I'm just going to pull out the paint. And this paper you can pull out pretty easily. And so what I'm going to do, yeah, the bokeh or the circles of confusion could be a neat way, the bokeh, to make it the round and making blurry roundness to it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to pull. I'm going to pull this away to make the streams of light. So I'm just pulling out the light, and then I kind of rubbed here too much, and so now the paper is ruined because I rubbed it really hard. So watch out your rubbing. Don't rub too hard. Just use your water and your brush, and don't scrub. This paper is not as tough as like an arch is, but it rubs out really well because it doesn't soak in as much, and so that's cool. So here I'm just pulling out some of the lighting. I could also do this later with opaque colors. I could use my airbrush and just airbrush in that lighting too. But I think what I can do is I'm going to take out the water and the pigment, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put water back into this area, because right now I'm pulling water out. And that's going to make a hard edge there, and I don't want to pull the water out. I just want to pull the pigment out, and then I'm going to put water back in there so that the water makes the soft edge, right? You need the water in there to make the soft edge. And then if you feel like it needs a color, like the color on this lighting is yellow, so now it's wet and I can just float color into it. So there you can put it in. But again, when you take water out and you take the pigment out, you're also taking out the water. And water is what gives you the softness edge, the soft edge. So just put paint back or put water back into that area without any pigment, and then you can apply a pigment back into it to make it the color that you want. See, I'm just going to put a little yellow in here. And so I took out the color. And then again, for the lightness I got there, I could have used masking fluid, but I didn't. And so later on I'll go in with an opaque color and just put it in there with gouache or something. Here I'm just not going to rub as much. I'm going to do this little lighting right there. You could also take paper towel and just blot down because it's still wet, right? And so add water. Rub a little bit, not too much. Take it out, and there's a light. And look at that, I got a watermark here because that's starting to dry too much. But watermark could be kind of a good thing in this instance, because it is like a very wild, crazy lights going everywhere. Let's take a little bit of pink and watch this. I'm just gonna throw that through here. This is opera. I'm using a little bit of opera right through the middle here. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow. I'm going to make this yellow lighting. I'm going right over the guitar. I can always make the guitar darker right over that. So I'm just getting some of the lighting. Here's dried already, so I'm going to put color back or water back into that area. Yeah, so bokeh and circles of confusion are kind of the same thing, where you have the lighting that's kind of diffused, or it's like it's taking round circles that are diffused, making it look like it's out of focus, the lights. I'm gonna put a light going this way. It seems like it should have one going this way, or maybe downwards. Let's go this way. Oops, right into my guitar. That was not good. Pull that out. That's fine. There's many different ways of doing items like this where you could do lighting, and you can make it all with one wash and stuff. I tend to like just to pull things out after I put the big wash in, and then just go in there and work it. And now again, because when you pull the water out, you got to make sure that you put water back in, just pure water, because otherwise you get a hard edge there and it won't look soft edge. And you need to make it soft edge. This is a light, and so put water back in that's clean water, no pigment. You can color it then if you'd like. You know, you can go back in, but you have to put water back in when you pull the water out. And so I'm gonna make that one purple too. So I'm gonna take a little bit of reddish. Just put color in there. All right, I just keep on going. It's got a little light over here, but I can still wet it. I can still go in. It's still wet enough that I can pull in some more pigment. I'm gonna go right over this guitar head here. Oops, get rid of my lighting now. And actually, I could put in some of these lines just to make it look like some of the girders are up here, just to kind of make it look interesting. It's all the stuff that you want to keep out of focus. I love out of focus and soft edges in watercolor. It's one of those things that lends itself really well to watercolor. If you make it so that not everything's in focus. I really like out of focus things. I don't like hyperrealism so much because everything's in focus, and I like to have some things out of focus. I like how the photographers use that to their advantage, and the bokeh and the circles of confusion really help that out a lot. I love that. I can still do that on top of this too. So if I'm just going here, pulling out again, pulling out the water and the pigment, but remember to put the pigment back in and the water. And don't worry about little things. Little things come later. I can go back in and I can get all kinds of things happening later. I just want this to be dark down here. So I'm just going to wet this area. Go around this keyboard player here. So I'm going to wet this whole area. Keyboard's light, so I might as well stop there. Get those big areas done. Get those big areas of medium and dark. That's the second step. Second wash is always the mediums. Put a bunch of color in here. Have fun with the color. Darker makes the lights look lighter, right? And I like the action that you get when you're painting and you're not so worried about making it look so detailed like the photograph and try to get all those hard edges in there. I'd rather see a bunch of not hard edges and make it just look alive, make it look like it's moving. Really, this guy's moving, right? He's playing guitar, so why would I have him stiff? I want him to be like almost singing out of focus and just having a lot of fun playing this guitar and singing and moving. And so I want to indicate action too. And the indicate action is blurriness, right? It's a little bit of blurriness. And then this little mic stand here with the rod that comes across, I put that in there later. I don't have to do all that little stuff yet. Always go for the big stuff first. You always go back in there and get the little stuff. Yeah, I was really looking forward to getting outside today. It was so beautiful yesterday. I should did something yesterday because it was just beautiful. Planted a arborvitae, and I got all kinds of stuff done in the yard. But I'm thinking, oh man, today is going to be a great day to me go out there, but of course it's raining. All right, and so you can also do a little spatter, like take a light color and then just put little dots in here, let it float. and make it look like little lights are on here and there. So this will be nice and dark. All right, and so down here, let's get the lights. Well, I got kind of the lights of that anyway. So let's go in there and get the darks down here right away. So underneath the keyboard here, and then we're going to go dark, getting some purple in there. And then what I can do is I can make this all kind of medium and darks, and then I can go back in and pick up some of the little light specks that you see there. This is where the students will take and draw every little thing about his leg and the keyboard and draw all that little detail. Why would you do that in the corner here? That's so unimportant. So just go over it and pull out a few of the lights. That would be more important. Is that you just kind of know that it is. It's a keyboard player by him having his face up there. So down here, just make it the dark values, and then go back in later and get some of that little detail stuff. It's not important, and you don't want it to have your eye go down there anyways in the middle of the corner there. So again, a nice beautiful wash. Washes are really important. Try to make your washes really neat. I'm leaving a little bit of light, but pretty much out of focus. I'm out of focusing a lot of this stuff. Got a lot of colors in here. There's a blue, there's an orange, there's a red, there's a purple. So pretty much I have every color down there if you think about it. And then I'll go back in, and later on I'll pull a few things out. Or you can also do the same time, like I'm going to do this. Let's do this. Since you want to do things a lot of times at the same time, so you pick up the same colors that are on one side of something, like this orange should be up there too. So it looks like it's in the same plane. Alright, and so it's kind of dark, out of focus, not that important. I can go back in and pull things out and make things darker. And again, remember, it's going to dry about 20% lighter, so I can pull things out. Now, also, if I need, his arm is right here, you can pull that out if you need to have a little bit right there. Again, once you pull out water, or the pigment, put it back in. Put back water so that it evenly distributes the water again. You need to make sure that your water and distribution system is always the same. You always want that to be the same values and colors. And so let's go down here and get this part done. So here I have this lots of light, and so I'm going to wet this with clear water. So let's just wet this with clear water to his leg. His leg will be done after that, because I want to keep this separate from his leg right at the moment. Normally I don't do that completely, but with this light burst I have to kind of do that with this light burst. So it's wet, and now it goes from a light to a really dark really fast. So I'm going to take a pretty thick amount of pigment, and then just, you can also do it like this, where I can rub it into that area, and then right away to an orange. I like to put little like light beams going up into that area, and then maybe some purple, really dark. So just let it bleed together, help it along a little bit. The water will bleed itself together. Oh, look at it, it made a water droplet, and this made a burst. In this instance, okay. So here I'm just going to rub this a little bit so it helps it along a little bit. Pick up a little bit more pigment, maybe a little bit dark here. And then it goes right on the edge, kind of gets really dark. It gets dark really quick, so it looks like that burst of light is right there. And I will take my airbrush and I will just spritz it right there, so that it makes it even more of just an even blurriness to it. And it's not cheating. I know a lot of people think that stencils and airbrushes and stuff are cheating, because it's not your the way traditional watercolors do things, but I don't do things like traditional watercolors do. I try to just make the painting look cool at the end. In the end, whatever, it looks cool, and I'm all for that. Just make it look cool. Make it look great. I want to see a great painting. How you get there, up to you. You know, if you got some opaques in there, it's not transparent, hey, it's all good. If you do feel and you want to get into TWSA, Transparent Watercolor Society, then yes, don't do this. And don't do that. If you want to submit painting into TWSA, then don't use opaques. But if you're just doing it for yourself and you just want to make a great painting, then yes, go ahead and just do whatever. When I go out there plein air painting lately, what I've been doing is I've been using anything and everything. I want to actually use all mediums all together. I want to use the oils, the aqua oils, the duos, with my gouache, with my watercolors. I want to use them all together. Here I'm going in with all these colors. Look at all these colors. And I am kind of going around his leg only because it's backlit, and so it's kind of has rim lighting on it. So in that instance, I have to put that in because I didn't use masking fluid or anything like that to make the rim lighting. And I could also do that with opaques, but I just doing my big areas here a little bit. And whatever you do on one side of the leg, make sure you cross it onto the next side because otherwise it doesn't look right. So this right here needs to be a little bit lighter, possibly here, a little bit more orange, so that looks the same like it goes on this side. Those colors are so vibrant. Love them. Thanks, Maria. I saw Maria, that you were teaching a class and teaching a class up there somewhere. You have to come maybe teach a class when I'm away. I would love to have you substitute my class. I think the students would love having you teach my class in McHenry one day. If you're available one weekend when I'm away, I would love to have you come by and teach my class. I saw you were teaching another class, and that looked really, really, really interesting. Look, I got a bunch of watermarks now that I dripped on there, but I'm going to keep them in this instance because it is kind of a scene that it's going to be fine with. So now let's do his legs. I'm going to go in here and do his legs and parts of him because the background's pretty much done, right? It's pretty much there. All right, so the side of his leg, since the light's sitting in it, we're going to start out with this being wet. And then we're going to just have like a yellow on the edge where it's really vibrant. It's going to be very vibrant right here, right? Because it's going to be blocked in there. Then I go right away again to an orange. Because it's blurry. It's making it, it's so bright, it's taking away the color and making it the color of the light. It's so vibrant. Optical obscura. No, that's another thing. I'm talking about what Carl Bretsky had taught. He had taught optical scatter. Optical scatter, where it's scattering the optics and it's making everything so vibrant that it's just blurring away the form because it's so bright. So they're going to put the form back in, and here's the lighting. I'm going to just do it. Keep a little bit of the edge there. Keep a little rim lighting. Go right to a really dark color. And what colors am I using? I'm using every color. I'm using purples, reds, blues, everything. It doesn't matter. You just look for the values. And I'm always use the same colors throughout the painting because I'm always dipping into what I've mixed here. So it's okay to go back in and just take some of those colors and put it somewhere else. I don't copy the photograph to a T for the colors. You know, I want to make my own colors. So here I'm going to put the hard edge, and it kind of goes to a soft edge. And there's a shadow here. Looks like it goes across here, and I'll just make it dark. So this part is not as dark, and you notice how I don't even worry about the mic stand and stuff, and the wire and everything. No, you don't worry about that. That comes later. You can rub it in with the really dark, and you rub it out. You know, that's all easy to do later on. Don't have to worry about that. So this part of his pants is a little bit lighter, so I can go in there later with it a little bit darker. I'm keeping some of the rim lighting still. As you can tell, I'm keeping some of the white rimlit. I'm going around the guitar. The guitar will be a nice orange. Watch this. We're just going to go in here with a nice orange, really bright in the shadow parts. And you notice how I don't paint pieces? Yes, I paint pieces, but I try to go through things. I try to go as much through things as possible because that makes it look more like it's all fits together. If you start painting like this little thing, that little thing, that thing, nothing holds together when it comes in the end. And so here, if I just paint things together with the same colors and the same palette of my what I have here on my palette, it'll look fine because it's all coming together as one big areas. And you get smaller and smaller as you go along. You get smaller and smaller. And here you get the. And even I'm not worrying so much about the wrinkles of the pants. I can put a little bit more of those in later. I'm just worried about the big areas of light and dark. Big areas first. Always big areas first. I'm gonna put a little bit of orange here, like it's hitting the side right there. You know, just gonna make this a little bit lighter. Coming through here, and always remember, drawing is number one. So if you don't have a good drawing down here and you're really working hard and it's just not looking right, I would say most of the time it's because your drawing is not right on. You know, your drawing has to be on. It can't be just barely on, unless it's out of focus and stuff like that. But you need to know the drawing aspect of things. Drawing is the number one most important thing about your painting. You know, get that right. I don't care if you trace or copy or whatever, but it has to be on. It has to look like whatever it is that you're painting. And when it comes to figures, you know, if you're off a little bit, it shows a little bit more than if you're doing a tree, or a face is very much more important than doing something that's not so important, like a tree or grasses or a bush, and that can be a lot of different things. Where the figure, if it's off a little bit, you can really tell. And unless it's very out of focus, where it doesn't matter, then you're okay if it's that way. But if it is, it's really like he can't have a light that's really really long, or it could be a little bit like it's moving and out of focus. That's fine. But knowing your drawing really helps you when painting it too, because you know it's more important than other things when you're actually doing the painting itself. I can't stress it enough. That's the number one thing you got to do. And again, like, I don't care if you trace it. In time, you will learn what's important even when you're tracing, or copying, or taking a image over it. That's fine. I learned how to draw, and I'm still writing that book. I'm going to get it out of there one day, on how to work from your imagination and learning how to look at things and then memorizing them. So now his hair, I'm going to just go with some purple here, some orange from the lighting. So a little bit of opera I'm going to put up in his hair. And so we're just going to put that up there like that. And then some red, it's going a little bit darker. Should have left the outer edge here a little bit lighter so that it looks like it's rimlet. It was a group of suburban sketchers, and they just wanted super basics of watercolor to help out their sketching. They were totally new to watercolor. Mostly techniques. Well, that sounds great. I'm going to have we got a lot of beginners in our class too, in my class. And I always love to see them sketching. I would like to get into sketching, more of the suburban sketching also. So maybe I should be there, and then you can come in and teach our class, teach us suburban sketching. It's always good to learn from all kinds of people. I've taken a lot of classes myself. It doesn't matter how good you are. You can always learn. That's what I love about art. I've taken tons of classes recently. Last year I took one from Bob Burridge, Carl Bretsky, and I'll be seeing these guys again. And even down in Canoga, I was always walking into the classrooms, seeing what all the teachers were teaching, and you always get so many good ideas and stuff. I was watching Ken Call do his class and stuff, and so it's all neat to see. I haven't gotten into urban sketching as much as I would like to, but I'm doing a lot of plein air painting this year. I'll be in Cedarburg. Cedarburg has a plein air event. I'll be doing that one. I'll be doing Pace, the big one. I'll be doing that in Denver. And here we got a little bit of the red. I'm not doing as much teaching as I normally would during the year as much, because I'm kind of focusing on painting a little bit more myself, and doing a lot of these more plein air events. I really think they're very cool. You go out there and that's coming. I just got this all new setup, and I definitely wanted to use it. I may use it this afternoon. I may go out there anyways and just see how it works and do a little video for my newsletter. All right, so there is his hair. Now we're going to go into his. Let's get some more of the shadowing on his face. Let's get his jacket now. We're getting close to the detail stage, but again, this is not so much detail as I'm doing big areas, getting them done, moving on as I go along. And then people a lot of times feel like the painting needs to be looking good from the whole thing, and that doesn't happen with watercolor. You need to wait until the end to make it look good, because that's when you get your details. Right now I'm just building a foundation for all the other, for everything. You build the foundation and then you add the little details after you get all the foundation in. So his coat, you know, I don't worry to what color the local color is of the objects. I think of what the surrounding area is, because even if he had let's say he had a purple jacket on, it would still be it would be really dark for one, because he's silhouetted against the lighting. And so then you can take colors that are like here. There's yellow you look at this picture. There's yellow coming in from the lighting on the side. So don't worry about what the local color is of an object. Look what's around the area, and also your lighting and your color scheme that you're using. That's more important than what the actual color of his jacket is. You know, and mostly a jacket probably like this is probably a leather jacket, black, and so if it's black, it's going to reflect a lot of colors around it anyways. So. Yeah, plein air is going to be fun, and I've been using this Sienna, Jack Richardson Sienna. I just bought every piece that Sienna makes. It's Jack Richardson. I will be doing a video for next week. I'm going to be showing it off, my system. I built one last year. I built my own, but I ran into, when I was in NAMTA, Jack Richardson was there, and I saw their new Sienna series of plein air gear. And I loved it, and I was like, oh man, this is really nice. And so I broke down and thought this is my birthday present for myself, even though my birthday's in November, but I thought I got to give myself a nice present. And so I got the whole everything. The only thing I didn't buy was the backpack that it comes in, and I may still order that too, just to show you guys the backpack that comes with it. But it's a whole setup. It's a tripod. There's 3 different ways I can go. I'm going to show you all different. I have 3 different setups. I can use it for smaller, medium, large, watercolor, oil. It's just really nice. I'll be showing that in my newsletter. So sign up for my newsletter. You'll see a little video, and even if you don't sign up for my newsletter, it'll be on my website. The newsletter. You can just get it there. But it's so nice and new, and I don't want to make it dirty either, because it's like just so brand new. I opened it up yesterday in class, and all of them come in boxes with all this beautiful wood. It's beautiful wood, and it's like, man, I'm gonna have to make it messy, because I look really bad if I don't have it messy when I go out there. But exciting. I'm very excited about going out there and doing some plein airing and suburban sketching. I like James Gurney. If you ever look at his stuff, I mean, I watched a lot of his videos. James Gurney, look him up. He's got some amazing stuff. Yeah, I made my own, which is fine. I made it with baking sheet and rods and stuff, and it worked great. I mean, it worked great for a long time. You saw me. I have a lot of videos on here where you saw me using my setup that I made myself. But this is like really, really nice. It's really high-end stuff. It's really beautiful stuff. It's almost too nice. It's like I said, it's like I don't want to use it because it's like so nice. I don't want to make it dirty. So there, now we'll go a smaller brush. So see how he's coming together? Again, big areas or light areas. And this is taking a little bit longer than my average plein air, or not my plein air, but my paint-alongs. Only because I'm not here to teach you. I'm here just to show you. and I want to make it nice, and so I'm just going at my own pace. I'm not trying to rush it in an hour. I'm not trying to get it done with a certain time frame. Which and the paint-alongs I always make sure it's 1 hour. But Sunday morning I just want to relax and just have fun here, base painting, and you can turn it off at any time. You always come back and you can see it later if it gets to be too long. But it should be done pretty soon. It's not going to take that much longer. So I'm getting all the little details now. It's getting more and more details as I go along. You see how you go work from big, you get bigger, 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 you get smaller and smaller and smaller. I do that with every picture. Every painting is the same thing over and over again. And you got to get to that point where I was just telling my students when they were talking about style last week with my newsletter, we're talking about style and getting your own style. We all have styles, maybe a beginner style, but it is a style, and you want to get to a professional style is what you want to do. And that just comes from painting a lot. You just have to paint. You may not like your style at some points because you're still in the amateur stage, but do more painting and take more teachers and try different things. Trying is sometimes different from painting. Sometimes like this on Sunday mornings I'm just trying things on different papers, different because I practice too. I don't think of how I paint. I just paint. And you got to get to a point. That's when you become a little bit more professional. Is when you're not thinking about how you're painting, but you're looking more about what you're doing with different surfaces, different colors, different paintings. But you're not doing the fundamentals. You're not thinking about what color, how much color to put in my brush compared to how much water I have. I'm not thinking about that anymore. I just paint. And then I kind of explain a little bit, but on Sundays I don't think of that as much as I do like during the week on Thursdays, because then I have to think about what I'm painting and how to teach it to you. Or here I'm just painting and hopefully make a nice painting. Here we'll put some shadow on here, even though it's not there. There's a little shadow going down. Oh, the thing coming down over there. And since it's moving, I'm going to make it a blurry shadow. Because anytime something's moving, I want it blurry, right? You want it to be just like he's blurred. Let's make this, I guess I should make it warm, right? Because everything else is warm. Now the wording on here is Samson. I'm not going to put that on there. If it was for an ad for something, then yeah, maybe you put that on there. But it's not that important to put the name of the guitar or whatever on there at this moment, at this point. Now I'm getting more detailed with the faces. And how detailed, it all depends on how detailed I'm gonna get with this guy. If I go really detailed with them, then I gotta get more on this guy over here. I don't want to put real light on this guy because he is in the background, so he's not the center of interest. He is pretty much a secondary interest. He's a secondary interest that you're gonna see after you see this guy. Yeah, I noticed that Maria, that with the plain urban sketchers, they don't really have like the plein air setup because you don't really need it. It seems like you're working with just a sketchbook. And actually, I've been talking to Legion Papers about doing the sketchbook with a sheet of paper and then a sheet of watercolor paper, a sheet of paper, a sheet of watercolor paper. I saw that from G. Joe has that on some of his sketch pads. Just reading your comments, guys. All right, detail stage, all the details, all the little things, and this takes a little bit longer because you have to really, you're working drawing now. Now I'm drawing. I'm going over my drawing that I actually did there with pencil, but then you're drawing with a brush. I'm doing here's his beard, he's got a little mustache here, and then and so this is where it comes in, like, to know your drawing. And if you don't have good drawing skills that you can just draw something without looking at something, then you better make sure that your pencil line underneath there is visible You didn't go over it, and you can just trace over that. So you know, you'll notice the more and more you paint, how much detail you need in there. Or depends on your style. Is your style really loose where you don't need to have that much detail there? No, your style, that's important too. It's your style will determine how much drawing you do. Is it more abstract? Is it really realism, hyperrealism? Then you're gonna, if you're doing hyperrealism, you better get it super super tight and super right on. And though most of those people just project their image onto a surface, and so they just do little pieces of each thing. So that's, you know, that's the way they do it. And so if you're going to do it that way, learn how to do that. Just copy it to a T, and make sure your photograph is really good too, because if you're copying something that looks like garbage in the beginning, no matter how much you trace it, it's still going to look like garbage. So make sure you get a good drawing or a good photograph of it. All right, so let's do this. Let's do the mic here now. I'm going to do a really dark. I'm going to do nice details. See, this is all a blueprint. This is all building up to, not a blueprint, a foundation. This is all a foundation underneath it to where now I can do my darks, my detailed darks. And the detailed darks are showing the objects. They're always showing what the object is. And that doesn't mean they have to be, all the darks cannot be colorful. You can put some color in those darks, like I've just put red in there. It doesn't have to be solid black. And people think that when you're putting the darks in, though there are a lot of times there is a lot of really dark areas where you are just using black, but I like to throw a little bit of color into these darks just to make them a little bit more alive, because they reflect too. This thing I'm sure is shiny in some spots, so don't be afraid of putting little hits of light in there too. Rim lighting, you can do that afterwards too with an opaque color. And he got a little light here, so I'm gonna make him a little bit dark and bleed into the background so that you don't see him so much. Like, I don't want to see the edge of him. I just want to make him look like he's just appearing out of nowhere. And again, it's like out of focus. Don't be afraid to make things out of focus and out of hard edged, because hard edge and in focus makes you look at the area, and sometimes you want to just get rid of it and not make it so important, then get it out of focus. Oh, I just got cramp in my leg. I gotta stand up for a second. Okay, let's see. Let me make this darker. Out of focus. See, I'm just making it out of focus. Push them into the background. Let them be out of focus. And this is not just with people. I mean, it's with objects too. Like in a landscape, there's times when you don't want to put everything into focus. Let's say you have a bush and a whole pattern of flowers and stuff. You can take it out of focus if it's not an important part of the picture. Edged here. See all these little details now. The bottom of this keyboard. Then we got these legs. A little dark in there. Something that I find giving yourself a time limit also is a good thing to do, because it'll make you not do details to a point where, you know, if you're trying to learn how to do the big areas. I know a lot of people spend way too much time sometimes on areas because they're trying to make it look like a photo, and I'd rather you think about the big picture and find out what's more important than other things. And usually the detail ends in the end. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I go through it and I go, okay, that's good enough. And because it's like if I keep on going, then things are almost too in focus, like I get in too much detail. And if I make too much detail in some areas, then I've got to make it really much more in the center of interest. I'm going to turn my thing sideways now because I'm going to put this rod in here. And so I like to use my big brush, which is a really sharp point on it. And so what I can do is I can make a really long line with the edge of the brush. Instead of using like this round brush, I like to use this flat because it's like a long rigger. And so I can just make a line like that. You can also punch down, like just go like this and just constantly go down, punch it like just down like this. It's a long line, basically. It's very sharp, this brush. they don't trim off the top like some of the, see how sharp that brush is on the, if you look at it, it's really super sharp. Let's see, right there. See how sharp that comes to a point? A lot of times they'll cut that off, and I told them when they were making these brushes not to do that, because a lot of times the bigger brushes, they trim them so there's a flat on top. I wanted it really sharp, and so that's what I like about my brush, is that it doesn't get like flat on the top. It's very sharp, like a round brush. So if you ever get caught on a stranded on a desert island, make sure you have this brush with you, because you can use this for the whole painting. Not that you're going to get stranded on a desert island, but if you do, use this brush. Let's make. I gotta get some of this violety or opera over here. So I'm just gonna make that the band on his guitar. Even though it's not that color, it's probably not that color, but because the lighting is bouncing around, you can make anything any color you want. All little details. Fun little details. This is the fun part. I always like doing the details, just because things starting to look like what they're supposed to look like. And oh, remember the rod I was going to put in there? So remember I was saying to pull out things. Watch this. So I'm taking the same big brush. A second, let me just see something here. I'm just going to pull this out. I'm going to take this brush and just really lightly rub on the top here, making a rod light. So I'm just pulling out the paint. It's dry already, and then I can just pull that out with the edge of this brush. I mean, I love this brush for so many reasons. There's so many things you can do with it. This is one of the things I love about it. You can just rub it like that. Then I can put a little color in that, since it isn't just white. I'm going to put a little yellow here and there. Put some yellow in there. And then the microphone itself, on the end here, I'm going to rub that out a little first. And I will make it dark too, but first I got to make it light, and then I'll make dark around it. Like it's detailed, nice and dark now. And I'm going to do it thick. Watch how thick I go, so that it is still a little wet, but then it'll give me a soft edge, and it'll bleed a little bit. And then I'll make this a little bit darker. I'm not sure if there's a rod here, but I'm going to do a rod going down. There's a rod over here or something. And there's a bunch of stuff going up back here, which I don't know what that all is. And also there's the wire. Which it's not a wire, but I put it on there because I don't like this, the non-wire one, because I like the wire going through. It's not a wire one, it's a remote one with an antenna. But I like the wire better, so it's just something that you can put on there. It looks cool. There's a wire going back here on the guitar to amplify it. The amplifier wire. I shouldn't have done it right in the light, because then oh well, that's be fine. There's a line going here. Let's go a little darker in here. See all this little detail stuff now, how you can just make things look more important now, and you can just have fun with it. It makes the dimension, you're getting dimension in things. And see how unimportant it was in the beginning, because you got to get all those big darks and lights too, because now it really doesn't matter how much you put in, because it's almost done when you get to the big detail stage, or the big area stages, because it already looks like what it's supposed to look like. Now you're just putting little it's like on the cake, you're putting the happy birthday on. You know, you're just identifying things now and just putting the beautiful detail touches on it. And making your center of interest a little bit more important than the other parts. There's a really dark wire that goes in this one too, goes around. And then what's important here is actually a lot of this is white. A lot of these things are white, and I'm going to be using white paint to go in there, which you could do that before with masking fluid if you don't want to use white paint. But again, I don't spend that much time on it, so I'm just going to put in black here and then put white paint over this. And the strings, I'm not even putting them in until later, and I'll do them really, really lightly. And maybe even with white paint. Again, just to kind of get it to look a little bit darker, his hand. The soft edge. Now let's get his face going here and his hair a little bit more detailed. This hand up here too, I gotta get a little bit more detailed. He is a center of interest, so he needs to have the most detail. And so since I already did these guys, I know that I have to go a little bit more detailed than that. And so I'm just gonna get in here and a little bit more detail with the values, the direction of his fingers, a little bit more details. Yeah, I love watching James Gurney's stuff. If you ever want to see some really neat plein air stuff, and even urban sketching, where he just like a sketchbook, that guy is amazing. Kind of like what I used to do. He looked sounded like he was an illustrator first, and us illustrators have done a lot with just doing things for commercials, and now doing it ourselves. It's kind of fun because then you can take all this time that we were doing things for other people. Now we can actually do them for ourselves. You can just go out there and paint whatever you want and not have to worry about what the art director wants. So now I'm getting in the, do the side of his nose. Know where the lighting is. And then he's got his cheekbone here. Knowing the structure of the face is important. You know, knowing that it's drawn right, and knowing the structure, you know how it's lit up. Because if you've done enough faces and drawn enough faces, they're all a little bit different in the fact that the little parts are different, but in general, everybody's got eyes, nose, and mouth usually, and so they're located usually in the same areas. So once you generalize, you can then generalize enough to know the lighting too, because the lighting is pretty the same. If you've done a lot of them, you know the side of the face compared to the planes of the face. You know those things. And since I drew TV storyboards for many years, done thousands and thousands, if not more than 1,000, of portraits and just people in advertising on storyboards, then this is, you know, no big deal to do, just to kind of make up something. And if you got a picture in front of you, you can just copy it and look at it. But if there's something that looks wrong, you know then how to change it and make it look right by your constant drawing of a portrait in a certain way, in certain hands, and a certain look of a hand. And now get some little darks in his hair here. Hey Janine, yeah, I love purple too. My favorite. It's always been my favorite color. I always call it the magic color because it really is. You put a little bit of purple in things, and it just makes it look wonderful. And it's like a primary. It's not a primary, but it's like you can use it and it'll make everything just fall together. It'll have grays. You can make it look really vibrant. You can make it. I use it a lot of times to kind of just have things come together, because you can mix it into anything. You can mix it into greens. You can mix it into blues, reds, oranges, everything you can mix purple with into. So there's a little bit of his hair. More shadowing here. All right, we're getting pretty close. Let me show you how to use the airbrush now. And so I'm going to do a few more things with, let's do the white paint first. So let me just do the white paint really quickly. The guitar is kind of bright, almost too bright. Let me just tone it down a little bit. It's a little bit too vibrant. That's the first thing I see. So I'm just gonna. So what I do is I look at it in the screen here, my monitor in front of me, and that's like looking at it from a distance. Because when you're looking at something too long, you don't see all those intricate things. So take your stuff, put it away from you, or look at it through your phone from a distance, because it kind of brings things together, and you can kind of see that. It just seems a little bit too vibrant, a little bit too bright for me. I'm going to tone it down a little bit. And also at the same time get a little bit of shadowing on there. I do like this burst here, and I almost made it a little bit too big, the burst, but it'll be fine because I'm gonna take and spray a little bit on there. I should have made it a little bit smaller here. And could I go back into that area? Yes, I could. Let me show you. If you want to go back into an area, they say. So what you want to do, let's say I want to go back into this area. I feel like it didn't get quite colorful enough or whatever. You can just re-wet the surface again. Just take your brush, lightly go over everything, just like this. Don't scrub too much, just put the things on. I'm going to scrub right there where there's a little dent right there. And maybe this line I want to go over a little bit, get rid of that a little bit. So I'm going over real lightly. And then pretend like it's a first wash again. And then I'll take my smaller brush and then I will manipulate it to go a little bit closer to a round circle. So go in there with some yellow. And it's going to act like it's the first wash because nothing happened with what's underneath. I didn't really pick anything up, and so I'm going to make this a little bit more a round circle. Like the circle of confusion circles. And then I'll make it a little bit darker as it goes darker faster. So they say, people say that you can't go back into an area. Yes, you totally can. You just have to re-wet the surface and then again float pigment darker on top of it, and even rub away an area if you feel like it didn't get to where you want it to be right away. So I'm putting a little bit darker. You just have to cover up areas with more paint because it's just floating pigment. It's just on top of floating on top of a surface that's wet, and I re-wetted all areas. So now it's bright again. And I will also, you have to watch though that you keep on going and make it all the way. See, I'm getting rid of that watermark. And so up here, if I don't want to have a line right there, I'll just wet a little bit higher up and not touch that area. Don't touch the area, it'll be fine, it'll go in there. Now what I want to do is have these little rays that you see. So what I'm going to do is take my brush and pull out some of these little rays of light coming through here. So I'm just pulling out little rays like it's really vibrant. Again with my big brush. Isn't that funny? I'm using this brush, this huge brush. But like I said, it's a great brush to have to be able to do everything with. Go across his leg here a little bit, and look at that nice shine. Isn't that great? All right, now the strings of the guitar. I'm gonna take just pure white, and I'm gonna go in there and highlight those things up. So to make my white a little bit cleaner, I'm just gonna take some water, go over this, take a paper towel, and just dab into there. Now I can pick up pure white again. Because usually the dirty color that you see is just a little covering of what you have on there, so it doesn't really matter. Just go in there. So I'm going to wet up my white here, get it juicy again. White of all the colors is the only one that's a little bit harder to rejuvenate in Holbein. I'm not sure why. It's just a little bit harder. But look at this. You can go right back into rejuvenating it. That's the great thing about not having oxgall in your paint, is it rejuvenates instantly. You'll never waste any paint. So let's see where we're going to do a little light hits on this, on the microphone stand here a little bit. Little lights on him, maybe his hair, on his jacket a little bit. You know, there's sparkles. There's going to be sparkles on maybe this, on the. I'm going to do little lines, and also if you want to practice really thin lines by doing really fast twitching strokes. You just really quickly. Yeah, I'm just doing it really quickly. And I don't have to make every single line perfect. I'm just going to go through here and just, look how thin these lines are. Look at that string lines, look how thin they are. It's just, and I'm not going to move them all the way to the top and make them so perfect. I'm just going to make them enough to show that there are some lines in there. You don't have to explain everything in your painting. Here I'll make the wire come down, make the side of the wire a little bit highlighted, maybe the side of his hand. This lighting here, some of the lighting I didn't do right away, so watch this. Nice round circle. I will do the circle of confusion too with the stencil. I'll show you that in a second. I'm going to do one right here, a little light. I'm going to make it first like that. Here's a light. I like to pull save my finger like this. Watch this. It's going to pull that into the area too. And this one I'm just going to pull this way. And since that one I didn't do anything with that one yet, I'm going to take a little bit of this lavender, which is opaque. I'm just going to pull this opaqueness into this area. Of course, I go right over the head of the guitar, which is that's fine. When it dries, I'll go back into my guitar head and I'll put it back in there. Maybe some lighting on the beams going across here. They're lit up a little bit. Like I said, I wasn't going to put some of them in there, but you can put a few in just to kind of show the lighting up there. Little hits and highlights, and here the wires light all of a sudden gets in here. The lights on his guitar. And now I'm going to show you the airbrush for the final step here. So what does an airbrush do? Basically, I'm going to put little dots of light or like blow. So if you can't get it to look really like it's blurry, you just use an airbrush. And you can get those lines with airbrushes. It's up to you. So what this is this is a compressor. It's battery inside. I charge it with a USB. And as soon as I press the button, you can see here the lighting on this thing. It lights up right away. There's a light right there. Lights up, showing me that I still have enough power. And then I just pull back and I put a little bit of white. I'm just going to use white. I'm just going to put some white in there to show you. I take my brush. I get a lot of water. Put it in my white. And then I take my airbrush and I put this in like this. It pours down into the little cup. See, it goes into the little cup. A lot of water. It needs to be diffused. It's not really thick. You can't make it really thick. It won't come out. Enough water. Some people use the acrylic, ink acrylic, which is fine, but then you have to really clean out your water or your brush, your airbrush. I just take later on. I'll take it through the sink and I'll just use it. And so as soon as I pull back, let me do it on something you can see. I'll just do it right in the painting. So you have to do it upwards, and so what I do is I just started by pushing down my button. See, I just push down, and it just automatically releases the air, and I pull back. I pull back like this, and it'll release the pigment. And so I'm just gonna see how it's coming out, and I'm just putting a little. See, it's making it's a blast of air, which you can do with an atomizer, but here I'm just gonna. I'm going to put a line over here. See how you can just see a little line? Oops, you didn't see that. Sorry. So I'm just going to put a little line there, and I'm just going to... Basically, it's a brush. It's airbrush. That's why they call it an airbrush. You can just cover up things, make things look shiny. It's making it light. Making things really light. I think that's pretty much about it. If you see something else, ask the question. That's Chinese white or gouache. It's this white is titanium watercolor white. It's not gouache. I do have some white gouache in my other palette, which I don't have here at the moment. That's another thing I could do. I can go back over this part if I feel like it and make it more gouache-like and thicker. But not for this one. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it right here. I'm going to do a little bit more light. A little light right there. Let me get a light right there. All right. There you go, guys. Another Sunday morning. Hopefully you learned a little something. Let me take the thing out. I also could spatter it and have more fun and all that kind of stuff, or make it even more abstract by putting lines across it and all those kind of things, which I'm still learning how to do. I'm trying all the different kinds of things with my paintings lately. And that's what you want to do. When you get to a certain point, you're thinking more about, how to change your style or make things different. And I don't do that to copy some other style. I just kind of am experimenting and practicing different things with my brushes and airbrush and different paints. So just keep on working, and you'll get your style that you feel like you want to get. So there you have it. there's the singer, guitar player, and actually there's only one thing I gotta do, and I told you I was gonna do that. Is right here. Let me get these little, get the side edge of the brush here, or the guitar, and then make it dark edge here, because it's farther forward, so I want to make this a little bit more intense and tight, because it's coming forward, or actually coming to the side, but I want it to come forward from the background. All right, there you have it, guys. Any more questions? Just ask them on this page later on, or we'll see you on next Thursday for my paint-alongs, and sign up for my newsletter if you haven't been on my newsletter. You'll see what we'll be painting. And also every Sunday, like I said, I go out and I paint plein air, unless it's raining like it is today. And I'll show you my cool Sienna Jack Richardson setup this coming week. All right, we'll see you then. Have a great Sunday, guys, and we will see you on Thursday. Where's my thing? Bye bye.